Impressive. Morning.
Coach Richmond this week, one of the few teams we see twice in the regular season. Yeah, a little bit different personnel than we saw last time. Talk about going to their place and playing against the in-town foe.
Well, it's always an exciting game for the players and the fans and everyone involved in the game. It's a great rivalry. They've got a great program, and we're excited about the challenge of going there. Last year we went there and thought for a lot of the game played well, but we did not finish the job. And they made some great plays down the stretch, led by Kendall Anthony, who's their best player this year. So we got a heck of a challenge on our hands, and we're excited.
Can you talk a little about how they changed without Cedric Lindsey, without Williams, it's Chandre Jones kind of moving into that?
Well,
What's on Anthony's shoulders?
Yeah, the biggest change is Chandre Jones is taking on a much larger role than he did when Lindsey was playing. But to be honest, he was starting to assert himself as a player even before Lindsey got hurt. So it was something that he's one of the best freshmen in our league, and he's really emerged. And now this is kind of what you look for as a player, is when opportunity presents itself, whether it's through injury or through whatever happens. You want to step into that void. And he's done a great job of that. So that's probably been the biggest change in terms of their front line. Their younger core of bigs has really stepped up. Williams wasn't having a particularly good year this year anyway, relative to the couple of seasons he had before this season. So those guys that are playing big minutes for him now and playing bigger roles now, they were doing that before.
Keep them contained sometimes and not able to get this push out?
Well, just through multiple efforts. I mean, you have to, if he beats you got to keep playing. You got to try to run the ball down from behind. You've got to be very elastic in your traps. You can't be stationary at all. But, I mean, we're not going to back up and play half-court defense. It's just not really what we do. We're going to extend the floor and press, and, sometimes they'll break the press, as any team does, and we just got to keep playing.
Their depth has really been hurt. When they get in foul trouble early, they tend to struggle. Is there any added emphasis in attacking, or is it sort of in your game plan anyway?
Yeah, I think there always is. I mean, you want to be aggressive around the basket. A lot of it depends on how the game is officiated. Some games they really let you play. The other night against St. Louis, I can't think of a game in recent memory where we didn't put the other team in the bonus in the first half, and it was kind of nice. There was some fouls whistled on us late in the half, but they, non-shooting fouls, but they didn't go to the line because our guys did a good job of not fouling earlier in the game, and the officials, let us play. So a lot of it's dependent on that, but I think both teams will look to be aggressive, and certainly we will.
Their offense was so guard-centric when Lindsey was there, too.
Mm-hmm.
How much more have they looked to go inside?
Well, I'm just really getting going yesterday and this morning, watching their games post Cedric Lindsey. The most valuable tape when you play a team a second time is always the first tape, the first time you played them. So he played in that game. Williams played in that game, but that's, for us, whether it was playing Fordham again, playing St. Louis again, playing GW again, that thing's like gold. I mean, I probably watch between breaking down the offense and the defense and the pressing clips and different particulars. I probably watched that game, 3-4 times, just because it's still the same two teams. But to your point, their team is somewhat different now, particularly with Lindsey not being out there. They're still going to go as their guards go. I think their big guys have stepped up and made some really big plays. They've been more aggressive than they were in the game here in particular, I mean, it was it was one Lindsey and Anthony played so well and attacked so well that it just kind of made sense for that for Richmond to keep going to those guys.
Is there a situation kind of thing that makes you as a coach realize how one injury can just upset everything? I mean, you obviously want to be deeper than that, but
yeah, I think you see reminders of that, all around the country, and it's something where you want to have as much depth as you can, but just like for every team, I mean, there's only one Jordair Jet on St. Louis. It's just, they don't have another one. So he's been phenomenal all year long. Lindsey was terrific for them, and I think the way he was playing was certainly in the conversation for first team all conference, and but I give their other guys a lot of credit. They've stepped up.
Coach, I know it's going to be very emotional there Thursday night with their senior day and everything like that. How important will the first maybe 5 to 10 minutes of that first half will be at their first Thursday night?
Yeah, I think that'll be really important. It's big every night. I mean, it's big Saturday against St. Louis. I think it's important for us to come out with terrific energy and be focused on the game plan and what we need to do. We don't have to play perfect. I think our guys are learning that, it is a 40-minute game, and, the key is really how we respond no matter what happens. The game that we lost there 3 years ago, Joey's senior year, and that was a non-conference game in December, so it was a little different feel to it, but they had that phenomenal team with Justin Harper and Kevin Anderson. I remember neither team could score for the first several possessions, and it was back and forth. Neither team was scoring, and then Richmond scored the first basket, and it was like it was a 10-point play. And I remember, even though it was 2-0, it just felt like bigger than that. So we got to understand, whether they score the first basket or we score the first basket, it's a long game, and if we can focus on the things we control, we give ourselves a good chance.
Heading into the last week of the regular season, where do you like where you're at right now? I mean, just
I don't really look at it that way. I mean, you're at where you're at. So, if you could go back and change some things, I think everyone in the country would say we want to be Wichita State, but that's kind of counterproductive to think that way. I mean, I think we've had some really good wins. I think our guys have gotten better. I think we played one of our best games on Saturday. I'm really pleased with our older guys and the progress they're making. So those are good things, but you're never satisfied. You want to get better.
Coach, you mentioned the low foul count against St. Louis. I haven't said much tape, but it seemed like you guys were switching on a lot of screens against them. Do you think, one, that statement is accurate, and two, do you think that had an effect on that? Guys were always in front of someone. And how do you think your team did on?
Our guys did a great job of that. You're right. We switched almost every time they set a screen on the ball. We switched, and that was just. St. Louis does such a good job of spacing you out and spreading you, and if you put two guys on the ball, then they're such a good passing team, and they basically, once they pass it out, it's 4-on-3. And I think that when we have put two guys in the ball in pass games, for us, the reason we do that is to be aggressive and maybe turn them over or get a hand on a basketball, but it hasn't worked out as well. So we switched most of the screens up there when we played earlier in the year. We switched 99% of them on Saturday, and I think it was pretty good for us. I mean, they started the second half really trying to emphasize going inside to their big guys against our guards after we had switched. But Briante did a terrific job. I mean, he was out there a few times guarding Rob Lowe, 6'11", and Briante was kind of like a boxer dancing around and getting his hand on the basketball. So that definitely helped us, to your point, that helped us keep from fouling because we always had one guy on the ball and everyone else was matched up. A lot of times fouls occur when you're scrambling around and there's a 2-on-1 or you got to fly out as a shooter. So that certainly helped there.
And that something we might see some against like Richmond, because they have guards who are so speedy? It's hard to fight through a screen and somehow stay in front of Kendall Anthony as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll look at that. The hard thing, obviously, about when you do switch is you're asking Mo Cox, Javante Reddick, Travion Graham, Jared Guest to guard a Kendall Anthony in this case, or Chandre Jones. Those guys are as quick as there are in our league. Jet's really quick and explosive. Guys did an okay job on him. I think a really good job on everyone else. So we'll look at that. I mean, it's definitely something that was good for us in the St. Louis game. It's just a matter of what makes the most sense from game to game.
Coach, given how Richmond has struggled in their last two games, is there any danger that your guys can kind of take the foot off the pedal a little bit? And if so, I mean, how do you counteract that as coaches?
Absolutely not. I mean, it's a Richmond game, and our guys understand. I mean, those are the guys on our team that were here last year or in previous years. They know that we went there last year and didn't get it done, didn't finish the job. So, no, I mean, their results last week have no bearing on our motivation.
How important was it for you guys, psyche-wise, to get a good win against a top-flight opponent, whether it was home or away, just kind of heading into this part of the season where you're going to,
yeah, I think
achieve all the things that you
it's important, but it's more important just for our standing and our, where we want to go and what we want to be doing later on this month. So, but yeah, I mean, I think for any team, you feel better about yourself as a team if you are able to win or able to play well. I think our guys, particularly with that St. Louis thing, because a lot was made in the media of VCU can't beat St. Louis, and there's this paper around here that posed that question. I forget the name of it, but it was, the reality was we had not played them at home. We lost in a close game on the neutral site. We got blown out up there last year. We lost in a one-possession game there this year. So, I don't think Saturday's result is surprising, except to maybe whoever wrote that. Just kidding, Tim.
Just said all you had to do was prove you could beat them. You did that.
We did. So yeah, no, it was something that was good for us, and hopefully we can build on it.
How much was proving you could beat them huge in the locker room? Just because obviously, if you knew the talk, some of the players knew the talk.
We knew we could beat them. It was just we hadn't beaten them. You know what I mean? It's so. It's one thing to know you can do something, but it's another thing to go and do it. And I think our guys did a terrific job of playing with great energy, but also understanding that, hey, if we follow the plan and hang in there through ups and downs, we're going to be fine.
Coach, you took your team, the whole team, yesterday to watch the documentary on the Final Four run. Did you talk with them any bit afterwards? Do you think that had an effect on them, just to be able to sit and watch it 90 minutes on just that whole, all of it?
Well, I talked to individual guys afterward, a bunch of individual guys about it, and then we're going to talk about it as a team today. The reason that we did that is, there's only two guys on our team, two players, that were part of that. And obviously our two seniors, and they were a significant part of it, but they weren't the central part of it. I mean, they weren't the star players on that team. But I think it was great for them, for those two guys, to see themselves as freshmen, and in this final week of their regular season, of their career, just to kind of reflect back. And it really struck those guys, seeing themselves as freshmen. I think it was really powerful for them. And then for the rest of our guys, I did it for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a little bit of a humility thing, because, our program currently and our players receive a lot of perks and a lot of great things, sellout crowds, and a lot of things done for our guys that is if you were going to point to one reason why, it would be that, the Final Four. And for you guys that are freshmen through juniors, you didn't do that. Like, so have a level of respect and appreciation for the people that came before you. And they do. I mean, it wasn't that I thought they were lacking appreciation, but it's always good to have a reminder. And then the other reason was just for all of our guys, just to show how much fun that was. And the beginning of the documentary focuses on the month of February and how that particular team went 3-5 and was in a rough spot and then barely made it into the tournament. So just showing that there's a lot of things that you can go do if you set your mind to it and if you go about it the right way.
Follow-up question, and I'm serious. If you had a magic talking goldfish that could grant you 3 wishes, give me one of them.
I thought that was a really good short film.
None of these people have any idea.
It really like came out of nowhere when the guy got killed. But anyway,
Spoiler.
it's not one of those things you're going to see unless you go watch short. It's like a 10-minute movie. Anyway, if I had 3 wishes,
About that, were you thinking about that afterwards?
I was, but I was thinking more about what our guys' wishes would be. Well, one of my wishes would be just win all of our games for the rest of the year. That'd be great.
That was one of mine too.
Yeah, but I thought that was good.
Do you see this team, do they have like some of the intangibles of maybe that 2011 team that went to the Final Four, that they can make a long run?
It's possible. I mean, that team, what happened in terms of coming together and a lack of any type of care or concern for the individual in the month of March, that was a special thing. We're not there yet, but I think our older guys have really made strides with that. The other thing that just comes out loud and clear in that video is the level of confidence that those guys have or had was through the roof. And it's hard to, as a coach, you try to build confidence in your team, but, Joey and Brandon and Skeen in his own way, those guys in particular had just had this internal belief in themselves that they were better than they really were. But they played that way, and that's what allowed us to beat teams like Kansas.
How much of that was just giant killer swagger, like that people didn't think you were going to, and the head coach did a pretty good job of using press clips and whatever to motivate?
Yeah, a friend of mine who's a sports psychologist tells me all the time there's 4 motivational factors that if you can have in your favor, it really helps you going into any game. And those 4 motivational factors are nothing to lose, underdog, no respect, and spoiler. And if you think about it, in 2011 in March, we had every one of those. We had nothing to lose because nobody thought we should even be in the tournament. So we were kind of, playing with house money. We were the underdog in every game. Spoiler, we had the opportunity to end these teams' seasons. And no respect, that was easy. All we had to do was turn on the TV. So when you combine those 4 things, that made for a very, very powerful motivational feeling, but you had to have confidence with it. I mean, you can have all 4 of those things. If you're not confident and you don't believe you can do it, then those things actually hurt you because you're like, oh, no, we're the underdog. It's just going to be tough to win. But those guys really, especially the bigger the team, the more confident they were.
You've done a really good job in subsequent years kind of having your team ready for the postseason. When you got knocked out, it's been close games against really good teams. Do you kind of get a reading on these guys where they kind of are in that process compared to where not just the 11 team, but other teams are?
Yes, I mean, I was worried about our team going into the Michigan game. That Akron game, in a few different ways, was not good for us the way that it went, but I mean, what do you do? But anyway, yeah, you kind of get a feel for your guys, and individually and as a team, had a great feeling. Like, one of the reasons I was so confident in 2011 is because I had a great feeling about that team. I mean, and everyone kept saying, well, are you surprised that you won by this margin? No, I mean, I wasn't at all. I really felt good about our team the next year when we beat Wichita State. I mean, those guys were so locked in and didn't have the same level of confidence that the 2011 team had, but that team followed the plan to the T better than anyone that we've had so far. This team this year is probably the most variable of any of the teams that we've had since 2011. I mean, it could be an unbelievable month of March.
How much different is it that year in 2011? You guys, get in the tournament, go to Dayton, win 2 games. People all over the country are scrambling to read the Times-Dispatch and find out who you are, who your team is, how you get here, and all that stuff. You guys have become the darlings ever since. People love to pick you. People picked you to go to the Final Four this year. The humility and stuff that you got yesterday, or that they got from watching the film yesterday. How much different is that for you to have to deal with because you're not this unknown blind?
It just makes it harder to create those 4 motivational factors that I just talked about. I mean, it's harder to be the underdog. It's much, much harder to feel like there's nothing to lose because there is a lot more expected of guys as players and of us as a team. But you can still win. I mean, you just have to put yourself in position. And there's a process that goes into winning that does not change. It's just all this stuff in people's minds. It is different. I mean, there's a lot more visibility for our program. People talk about us more. For instance, this year, when we have lost, it's been like, what's wrong with those guys? And, I mean, it's different. It's a different deal than it was before. But that's what happens when you try to take your program to the next step.
Coach, two guys who have been a part of all of those runs, and they'll be a part of them. You guys are in the tournament. This will be the first time in the program's history. Javonte and Rob, can you just kind of reflect on their careers? This is the last week for them, and just how much you've seen them grow both as people and players.
They've grown so much, and I wish that everyone could see the growth that's occurred in those guys off the court, because that's actually been more impressive than the careers they've had. But basketball-wise, I'm really proud of those guys because they've come a long way. And, in a lot of ways, I think that first year, it was great for them, but it also gave them a little bit of a false sense of the way things were going to be because it finished up so well, and they were just kind of along for the ride, and they were a big part of it. With Rob, there was this feeling in our program that he was just going to explode after that. And I think we realized in his sophomore year and even his junior year that, hey, there's a couple steps that we all kind of skipped. And so he's done a great job of kind of going back and understanding all the little things that go into being a good player, and he's matured and developed so much. Javonte, probably of all the guys I've ever coached, I've never spent more time thinking about, how to help a guy or move a guy forward than him. Not probably, definitely. I mean, he's someone that we've tried to really invest in as much as we can, and he's done a great job investing in himself and in the program, and he's had a phenomenal career. I think, one of the better careers of players here in recent memory. And hopefully, for those guys, I think what I've been telling them for the last month or so is your career is getting closer and closer to being over with, and even if it ended today, you would be certainly one of the winningest, one of the most, accomplished players in VCU history, but you need to decide how you want your career to end. You need to make that decision. How do you want to be remembered, not just as a freshman, sophomore, junior, but how do you want your senior year to be remembered? So that's what they're focusing on now.
Do you think they have spent any time the last 3 years kind of chasing, feeling pressure, chasing what you guys did in 11 just to do it again?
No question. We all have. I mean, listen, anytime you do something like that, you want to do it again. And I don't think it's so much pressure based on other people's expectations, but it's like, man, that was a special thing, and you see it when you watch that documentary. It's so much fun. It's why you play a team sport. Yeah, I mean, that's something that for all of us we want to go after, and but it's elusive. I mean, there's only 4 teams every year that go that far, so we can't skip steps, and we have to understand what goes into even putting yourself in position.
You guys good?
Thanks. Scott, is that radio show's calling me?
I have a number.